Hi, I'm John Seacott, Executive Editor for the Brewer Magazine, and welcome to another edition of the Brewer Magazine podcast. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to us on either Spotify or YouTube. And of course, you can always find us with your business resource needs at brewermag.com. But as we start this podcast, we want to make sure we say welcome to our newest sponsor. The Brewer Magazine podcast is now sponsored by Keg Logistics. With the most keg program options and flexible payment terms, even the smallest operation can get the highest quality German-made kegs with their rent-to-own, short-term leasing, pay-per-fill, sale and leaseback, and export keg programs. All the details at keglogistics.com, and thank you so much for sponsoring the Brewer Magazine podcast. All right, let's dig back 5 years ago. This month, 5 years ago, that was the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been 5 years since then, but here at Brewer, we had already made plans at that point to chat with Omar Ansari of Minnesota's Surly Brewing. So that was happening before the world shut down. We had to kind of rearrange some things, but we were able to get to Minneapolis and talk to him for our June of 2020 for our July-August issue for the Brewer magazine. Now the place was empty. Omar was actually working with the production staff at that point, the packaging staff rather, to be able to get mixed 12 packs into the cardboard boxes, and as there was a reduced capacity of people working at that time. But he did sit down to talk with us and share some insights into Surly's management structure and staffing. Also, how he is kind of the big picture guy and he loves to be able to let his team be able to work with day-to-day operations. And I was also asking him about his strengths and weaknesses, about being a leader, and kind of the brewery working its way up to the size that it is. And how that happened was because Minnesota's craft beer scene needed legislative change that allowed those breweries to be able to sling pints of beer across the bar, and it helped boost everything in Minnesota as well. Beyond that brewhouse stuff, Surly has also been deeply committed to community involvement and philanthropy. So Omar sheds a lot of light on different parts of the brewery. So grab a pint and settle in and check this out. Cheers.
Yeah, in 2010 when we filled up that building, literally like there weren't any more room for tanks, there was no more room to grow. It was like, well, what are we going to do? Are we gonna grow? And the laws in Minnesota were such that we couldn't grow a little, we had to grow a lot. I always tell people that the beer business is so dependent on the state you're in. 50 ways to do the same thing, right?
Right.
And in Minnesota, we didn't have growler sales, there was no beer draft sales, and we were a production brewery, and that was it. We didn't have any consumer-facing stuff except free tours. So that was when we decided to try and change the law that breweries could sell pints of beer, and that was kind of then the leveling up that when that happened, we were then able to conceptualize this place and make it happen. And it wouldn't happen if we couldn't sell beer. That's this doesn't work giving away beer.
Right. Right.
So
Now, is this the third location that you guys have had? Or is this
second?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were
second brewery. So we still the original Brooklyn Center brewery is still going. The 30 Barrel Brew House is still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you moved it from there to here in 2014. You said.
Yeah, we started brewing December of 2014.
Okay. And the law was in place by then, so you guys were able to plan this.
Yeah,
the
law
got
we got the law changed and signed into signed in 2011, May of 2011. May of 2011, I think was the time.
Okay.
So yeah, it took 3 years to get this place going. So it took a lot longer than I thought to get it up and running. But that's once again another learning curve of like, oh my God, this is really complicated. Like buying land and working with architects and how do you do it. So yeah, it took a while. We looked at 80 different sites around the city and settled on this one. And if you would have come here back then, like there were no apartment buildings here. This project across this way just started. It's been fallow for all this time. So we were kind of the linchpin of the redevelopment of this whole area around here. So it was a little bit different when we got here.
With the law change, how much were you involved with that and having to talk to legislatures and do all that stuff that you probably never had to thought you were going to do?
I mean, I did it. So it was Surly was the lead on that. I mean, I did it. So yeah, it was a very difficult process. Getting stuff done that is hard, and there's a lot of, Minnesota has a pretty strong lobby opposing any beer changes. So, I think someone told me we're the only state that breweries can't sell 6-packs and canned beer and bottled beer, and they just try to fight that, and it got shot down again, even in the pandemic. So it's just they're pretty tough to change. So, I remember when we started working on it, we talked to someone at the local paper about it, and they're like, we're not going to cover this. It's the same thing every year. Like, you bring stuff up, the industry brings stuff up and it disappears. It's not really, there's nothing to talk about, but we were able to make it a little bit bigger deal.
So what was the question? Who did you have to ask the question to get the ball rolling? And, who was your advocates on the legislature?
Well, we had to hire a lobbyist, so that was kind of a part of it to just work on the navigation of how things get done. And we had a guy, Clint Roberts, from One Simple Plan, who did our PR, which was instrumental in getting it done, because I kind of knew that was the only way to get it done. And we had a senator from Brooklyn Center who was an early adopter, so she was a Democrat, Senator Linda Scheid. So over there on the wall, there's a pint of glass at the state capitol. So that was the bill, the poster commemorating we got it done. So she was the lead and took a lot of arrows, and kind of the first time I really saw how it works. And unfortunately, she passed away before the bill got signed. And she'd been kind of was for beer in grocery stores for a long time and always fought for that stuff. So it was kind of bittersweet that she wasn't able to see it happen. But I mean, like, she got it done, and that's where you realize, like, oh, it is literally people, that kind of can will some of that stuff through. So she was a big one, and then we had a rep on the other side, Jennifer Loon, in the House that pushed it. But yeah, it was pretty not going to happen. And then, we were able to, kind of frame it as an economic issue of, like, I can do this in Hudson, Wisconsin, 30 minutes from here in Wisconsin, so why would I spend $30 million there? Like, I'm a Vikings fan, not a Packers fan. I grew up here. Why would I not want this here? So then it kind of started to change a little bit. And the opposition said, we don't have a problem with it. They can just go build it where it's legal. I remember showing that to a rep that's backing that guy, and I remember him just reading that and going, like, you can't say stuff like that. You can't expect a representative to carry your water when you're like, I don't care about jobs. Because it was, you're just kind of suicide when that's your only reason as to why. So we kind of got some momentum with social media. I mean, that was really how we did it, was it being, someone came up to me and said it's the biggest issue at the Capitol outside of the Vikings Stadium. So I'm like, holy crap, it's that big of a deal. And our lobbyist I asked our lobbyist, I said, well, how many phone calls, emails does it take for someone to care? Like 150, 500? Like, I have no idea. And she goes, oh, this is a business thing, so like 10. I'm like, oh, you're kidding. That's it? I'm like, I can get you 10 emails per rep, because it's beer. Everyone loves beer, so that's really how, legislators kind of have their own positions, but there comes a point where they're like, oh my God, look at all these people that care about this. And that was kind of the difference. We're able to push it through.
Yeah. And then once it went through, I mean, it really has changed the land of craft beer in Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, there was, probably, there was us, Liftbridge, Flat Earth, Fulton. There's probably, 6 breweries in the metro, and now there's 80 or 100. So, and the state's probably got 180 or 200. So, kind of know, going to other states and seeing what breweries are, and kind of wanting to bring that to Minnesota, I kind of knew, like, there'd be a lot of breweries. And, I think most people in the beer business agree it's a great, local gathering space for small communities. I mean, that's the cool thing. You see all of these small towns that have got one, and it's without a doubt, like, it's a civic pride. Like, we've got a brewery, that's where people get together, because it's not a bar. Up near where my folks' cabin is, there's a towny bar, and you don't bring your kids there. Like, they're raffling off a automatic weapon behind the bar, like it's a bar, which is fine. But tap rooms and breweries are usually a place where everyone's welcome, and it just feels a little different. So So we I sort of knew that would happen, and it's obviously exploded even more so. But hopefully, most people in Minnesota will see kind of some of the benefits of that change.
Yeah. Well, and you guys really do care about the Minneapolis community, and like with the Surly Gives a Damn. You guys have been doing that for like a decade now, right?
Yeah, they just had, this is their 10th official year of being a 501c3, so we got a full-time person that just focuses on nonprofit, like volunteer work and such. So, I think last week we donated all the proceeds to various groups involved in the protests and unrest. So I think we donated $37,000 for Black Lives Matter and some of the rebuild efforts because some areas got hit pretty hard. And breweries are definitely big parts of the community that they're in. They have a pretty strong connection to the people that live in the community. So we do our best to try and give back in a manner that we can.
What prompted that cause? And now 10 years.
It was literally just we had so many people that would ask for free beer back in the day, and we were tiny, so we just give it to people. We didn't really have a rigorous donation policy like we do now. Now you got to be a 501c3. You have to fit in certain, groups that we're okay. Like we're not going to give it like a kids organization because that always feels kind of weird. And, but we used to just kind of do it all. So I mean, as soon as you open, the next phone call you get is, "Can I have free beer?" And you find out they're for fundraisers, they're for charity auction stuff, and you kind of realize just what a part beer is in a lot of just in so many people's lives and so many times where people get together. And it just seemed like, so it literally kind of stemmed from, oh my God, how do we handle all of these? I can't take it anymore. And we had some volunteers that wanted to get together in the name of Surly and do some volunteering work. And Mary was the gal that was helping with the donation piece. And I'm like, well, Mary, why don't you kind of take this by the horns? Because if people are going to start volunteering in the name of Surly, which is awesome, we should probably help organize it. And it just got to be it was actually really challenging in the beginning because most places that have people volunteering have like 8 or 10 people showing up, and we could bring 50 or 100 people. So it was kind of overwhelmed. Like we kind of brought too many people for a lot of groups. So just trying to find out which ones that would work with was a big challenge. And actually, I also had gotten the idea from Harpoon. I worked with, I don't remember her name anymore, Liz, I think, at Harpoon, and they had a group called Harpoon Helps. And she was sort of the one that turned me on to, like, if you buy someone a glass of beer, it's amazing what they'll do. Because at the end of every volunteer thing, we always go to a Surly bar and buy everyone a beer, and like that's kind of what it's all about, is getting together with that group and having a beer and just trying to find a way to give back a bit. So I think a lot of people want to do it. It's just always feels a little more complicated than if you're a person, where do you go or how do you do it? So it's like, nope, just sign up on a Surly thing and show up, work for a few hours, and then we'll go get a beer. So nice. It makes it easy for everyone.
Well, let's go back to the beginning, and what made you want to open a brewery?
I've been a home brewer for a number of years, like 10 years at that point, and I was sitting in my basement with my son, and every Saturday I would either brew or be thinking about brewing. So I was reading a More Beer catalog, More Beer out of California, the big homebrew store, and they had a 3-barrel brewery for sale, which they said was for a brewery or a bar restaurant that wanted a pub or a home brewer gone wild. And the light bulb literally went off like in a cartoon. I'm like, shit, I could open a brewery. And my folks' business wasn't really super successful, and I didn't really enjoy it. It was industrial abrasive, so no one ever came to interview me about that. So and the business was still kind of ticking down slowly. You kind of see the writing on the it just, like, I kind of knew it wasn't gonna last. With the 10 biggest customers I had when I started working there in 92, we only had one left in 2004. Like, they'd either closed or moved to Mexico, because that's back, the first wave was Mexico, not China. And it just, it's a dirty manufacturing business that Americans don't want to do, so we had like 5 employees. I did everything. It just, so kind of having an idea of something new when we had the space to do it, and just kind of knowing that the Twin Cities was just Summit. And when I'd go skiing or be playing Frisbee out in Colorado or Montana, Idaho, Seattle, I was like, Jesus Christ, just look at all the beer out here. It's crazy. And there were no big West Coast IPA bombs out here. Someone had EPA and Bell's, which was practically considered local, even though they're in,
Kalamazoo,
16 hours away. Two Hearted was kind of what everyone drank. So there was just, as a home brewer, I didn't brew dark beers. I just brewed IPAs. Just kind of it just seems so easy. Like everyone I know likes those beers, so it just seemed like kind of an easy opening to fill. I don't think I ever would have been. I wouldn't open a brewery now. I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't have a particular, hook or knew I was doing something better. So we were luckily the first kind of guys to fill the void, and then things have gotten kind of crazy since then.
Yeah.
This Brewer Magazine podcast is brought to you by Keg Logistics. With the most keg program options and flexible payment terms, even the smallest operation can get the highest quality German-made kegs with their rent-to-own, short-term leasing, pay-per-fill, sale and leaseback, and export keg programs. More at keglogistics.com.
Was there always because like you said, you just wanted to brew beer. You didn't have a marketing plan. You didn't have a thought process. How has that developed itself to what you guys are now?
Because I came from this background of industrial abrasives, which is pretty much a commodity. It's how much it costs. Its identifying feature is letters and numbers indicating its hardness and its grit size. Like, it's pretty boring stuff. So this just was such an easy, wide open avenue of creativity and naming. The big thing we wanted to make sure with the name of the brewery was it was something we could have some fun with the beer names, and it just seems like it's so easy from where I was coming from of just doing something fun and creative, because beer is fun, right? People are drinking it when they're with friends and hopefully having a good time. So it kind of seemed an easy way to go. So we sort of went this pretty kind of unlike anything else out there. We canned our beers, which was completely different. No one else was doing that. I mean, not in this market. There wasn't anyone. I think we're the second brewery to put our beer in 16-ounce cans. I think Kettle House did it before we did. And it just was kind of easy to have this pretty vibrant, huge aesthetic to stand out, because there was nothing like it. I mean, now you go to a liquor store and it's like, Christ. Every color of the palette is out there, right? Like hot pinks and oranges and everything. But in 06 there just wasn't, and it was all bottled beer, which is different because all you've seen is the 6-pack, where we had a whole can to kind of do our art on. So it just seemed to be a easy way to kind of develop, and it was all organic. That poster, that build or painting up there with the Grim Reaper, that's Adam Turman, who he called asking for free beer for a fundraiser for Spam, Sexy Poster Artists of Minnesota. And I'm like, well, hey, dude, I need some artwork. And it just was this big easy space to fill, and it just kind of it got filled. And Todd was very much into metal, so he definitely kind of had a dark theme to a lot of the stuff we did, and that was sort of the niche we filled, and it was fun just because it was so different than what anyone else was doing. Because when we started, like, we're not doing fucking canoes and lakes. I mean, I love it, but it's like I've seen enough of those ads that we're in the city, we're in the metro. Like, let's embrace that part of it, not just drinking beer on a campfire. So we tried to embrace a little bit more of an urban, gritty edge to the whole marketing. And it was all just, my wife and myself writing copy and doing everything, and we had a graphic designer, and it just kind of grew. So once again, no master plan, it just kind of happened.
And now that you have that, you have people doing that for you now, are they learning the Surly process, or do they have to kind of have it coming in?
They had to have an idea, but I think they've kind of refined it. Now there's there's books, and what is it called? What book did we write? Style guidelines, books, and trying to define, which I don't quite enjoy that process as much as just making it, but you kind of find them that you do, like we did get pretty scattershot over the years, and that was me, and But then, as you get bigger, you start looking at sets in the grocery store. And you're like, well, this whole thing doesn't make a lot of cohesive sense. I'm like, well, sure, I get it, but I mean, there's a reason each one of these cans I designed them the way that we did. But as you get bigger, you realize like that doesn't then work as well. And especially the further, I always worked in Minnesota because everyone knew us. But when we got out of Minnesota, then it's like, what the hell's going on with this design? Like, it's a mess. So it's trying to then tighten things up and give things a unified look. So that's certainly, the team and Bill, when he came over from Sierra, was like a lot of people, when they get to Surly, they're like, well, where's all the stuff? And I'm like, well, we don't really have anything official. He's like, oh, Christ. Like, all right, well, that's a 2-year project we need to start on, so we have got that done. So it's helped a lot, and that was part of the whole redesign with the S and trying to make it a little less, kind of the cartoon that it used to be, which even myself, I'll see some of the old cans, I'm like, it just looks like 2008, which is fine, but it just kind of looks old and cartoony to me, and so it changes kind of just the natural evolution of things,
Well, and you mentioned leaving the state. When did you guys finally leave, and how is that, obviously, like you said, you want to be able to have that precise message.
Yeah, that was a real start and stop for us. I mean, we sent beer to Chicago, 2007, so early on, and we had so many big weird beers that we knew like a market like Chicago could handle a Rauch beer and not freak out, where there's just not a lot of bars that are going to pour that here in Minnesota, or certainly in 06, and it's just Chicago is a great place to go and drink, and so we'd send beer there, and then we'd stop. There's a point where we didn't have any beer, like we just couldn't meet demand, so we had to pull out of Chicago, and we pulled out of Wisconsin, and then we went back again and pulled out again. So it was kind of a not planned out, but that's sort of how it's always worked. So it's probably not until we got here in this building we could kind of really expand our footprint to get to become a regional brewer. So the Dakotas, Iowa, the rest of Illinois, Colorado, that all happened after we got here, just because we had enough beer, because before then there simply wasn't enough beer. And just having the manpower to deal with logistics and having managing salespeople in those markets. So yeah, it's taken us a bit, but we're opened up. We started selling beer to we're in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, the Shanghais, just a little bit ago. So we're also trying to there have been a lot of opportunities to send beer to places that we haven't taken, because the beer laws are so dumb that if you make a mistake, you're stuck with your distributor, whether they're so the amount of legwork it takes to figure out if the market's right or not is a lot. So we've tried to keep doing that, to send beer, even if it's just to try it out to some markets. So we've gotten better at that too. So I think we got some inquiries to send beer to Japan a few months ago, so we decided to do it. We never even took it on, because we just didn't have the bandwidth to handle the processing of are these programs right for us? Does it make sense? Can we do it? And now we've got enough people to kind of take on some of those things. So
you see, and it's kind of, you can see how it's going now. A lot of breweries aren't getting to your size anymore.
Yeah, correct.
And you guys,
you got to be in a market that like has a hole, right? Like Rheingeist, like And when that happened, I'm like, so obvious, right? Like, it's so obvious now. Like a big market that doesn't have a big craft brewery, like that one will fill in, because that's how it is now. I mean, I don't know if there's any place left anymore.
Right. That's you kind of hit that.
So I think there's a few breweries that can grow into this size now, but they have. It seems to me from the outside, and I don't know these companies, your Rheingeist, your Modern Times, really seems like they have their shit together. Right? Like they're starting with teams that know what they're doing. They're not just like, I don't know, kind of understanding, this isn't a chain state, and realizing how important that is to really grow, and knowing kind of some of these breweries having chain people, like they're from the beginning, like designing things, knowing what works in chains and doesn't. And that's like for us a tough thing, because we're not going to be strong in a chain state like Illinois or Michigan, because we're not local. So we're kind of in a bit of a hole. So yeah, I think some people can grow into it, but certainly not a lot anymore.
Do you feel fortunate that you guys were able to kind of beat that curve. And did you want to be this big ever? I mean, in your mind?
This never ever was any part of a plan. It just wasn't even an option. Just breweries weren't that big. When we opened, some bells were like 30, 40,000 barrels, and they were huge. So now they're 130 and 400. So it wasn't any plan. It just didn't seem reasonable. And it was the first craft brewers conference in San Diego. I went to the one in San Diego in 2004 and saw Stone's facility, and it was a warehouse. It was like our original brewery. And then we went back, it was 2008 maybe, and saw the new facility, and everyone I knew was walking around with their mouth open like, holy shit, like, is this what craft beer is becoming now? Like, this is unbelievable. And that was kind of then being like, oh, shit is changing. Is sort of like, as time went on, kind of realizing that we can bring something different to Minnesota. So, I kind of knew we had a window to build a brewery because it was going to saturate, and knew that at some point you probably weren't going to be able to get a bank loan to do something because it's a little too risky, and it seemed like we had to make the move when we did, otherwise we probably wouldn't be able to do it later.
Yeah.
So
do you, when you're looking at it now, do you see a plateau for you guys, and will be happy being there?
We sold less beer this last year than the year before, so that's the first. And we decided to take price because it's just at some point growth for growth's sake doesn't get you where you need to be. But we're not going to grow just do we open up a new state, or we don't. We are now we just sell more. Selling beer is hard, and we're in the markets we're in. So, if we continue to grow, it's kind of the same way I've done it from day one. Like, I've always sort of tried to react to what the market is. Us to jam enough beer and to become a 200,000 barrel brewery, I don't know to what point that would be for us. So I think if it's 90 or 100 or 110 and then now who knows, with COVID we may have hit peaks early. I don't know. If we lose half the bars, draft's not coming back the way it was. So I think we're always able to kind of live with wherever we're at. We don't have to do this or that, and I don't think us growing into other markets is it's fun, and it's great to see your beer in other spots, but I don't know if we're gonna sell a lot of beer in Seattle. I'm not sure why anyone would feel the need to go and drink our beer all the time, right? It's kind of like in our market here, I see beer from other markets, and I'm like, was someone clamoring for that beer? And the answer is usually no. So we'll kind of keep working on what we're doing and brands, and I think obviously everyone wants to continue to grow and come up with new brands that people get excited about, but it's also not something we have to do or we're going to die. So I think there's got to become a spot that makes sense for us.
This Brewer Magazine podcast is brought to you by Keg Logistics. With the most keg program options and flexible payment terms, even the smallest operation can get the highest quality German-made kegs with their rent-to-own, short-term leasing, pay-per-fill, sale and leaseback, and export keg programs. More at keglogistics.com. Don't forget, you can always check on brewermag.com. You can also see us on YouTube and listen to us on Spotify. And don't forget daily updates on Facebook, Instagram, and X. I'm Executive Editor John Seacott for brewermagazine.com.